Yes. Perfect. We're live. This is as
There you
simple as
go.
it is now to go live. Hello and welcome to Being Human. If you're watching, my name's Nat Rich and I'm talking to Martin Norbury today, who is the scalability coach and someone I've been admiring from afar for a long time. I've already interviewed him on the radio show, but I saw that he had a very similar passion to me when it comes to geeking out and structure. So I thought I'd reach out and see if he wanted to do a chat today to go into that. So how are you today, Martin?
We're good. Yeah, I would say we're good. I'm good. I've had an operation 2 weeks ago, a gallbladder removed, and it was a little bit more complex than I thought.
So you've been
So
resting.
yeah, it's been great actually. I've been a bit of R&R, spending time with the kids and the family, and doing a few of these things, which is great. So yeah,
Good.
it's been a nice 2 weeks.
Oh, well, I'm very glad that you said yes, and I'm very happy that you're here today. So
My honour, no problem.
thank you so much. So the main thing was that I got an email from you. I think it was about a month or so ago now, and it was you were talking about how you break down the structure of your week and how you prioritize pretty much yourself first, and then you leave space for what you've got to do work-wise, and then you break it down.
Yeah.
So I would love if you could kind of give an oversight about that, really, on kind of the structure, the little secret sauce that you have for your week, and how that works out for you.
Yeah. So I think one of the things I've found, and it started with school, is that when you have a routine, you get used to it. It becomes habit forming. And if it becomes habit forming, it then starts acting on you. Because everyone thinks of habits of bad habits like drinking, smoking, such and such. But actually, you can have really, really good habits in your life. And I've tried for a long, long time now to have a daily habit that I can just fly into, whether I feel like it or not. It sort of takes over me, if that makes sense.
Mm-hmm.
So during lockdown, I started looking, and I had a pretty good routine anyway. But during lockdown, I started looking at what I needed for a balanced life more. Because what lockdown gave a lot of people is the opportunity to do some of the things because they couldn't do other things to have more balance. I thought, actually, this is the time to take what I've got during lockdown, like lunch every day with my kids. It was amazing. We all sat around the dinner table for 100 odd days, pretty much every day, and had lunch.
Yeah.
And the communication aspect was just amazing. And I wanted to continue that after lockdown. Not obviously every day because they're at school, but certain things. So what I did is I looked at everything in my life that I wanted to do and said, how could I not just do it like once a month or once a 2 weeks or once a week, but do bits of it every day. So I looked at what I would call my hygiene factors as such, of what I needed to do daily to keep me happy, and then looked at what was left. So I took my 24 hours. And I said, I do want to sleep 7 hours a day. I know everyone's, I'll get up at 4 and hit the gym. I'm like, no, I don't want to do that. I really don't want to do that. So I put 7 hours from my 24 and I mapped out my 7 hours. And then I looked at, I said, well, what else do I need to do every day? Well, I need to eat. I don't want to be one of these people that eat at their desk or rush around. I want to have a nice, relaxing breakfast, lunch, evening meal with the kids, with the family, with Jackie, my wife, whatever. So I put an hour and a half down and I started building this up. And I looked at one of my biggest things that I really enjoy is personal development. If I don't feel like I'm developing myself, I feel like I'm stagnating. Doesn't matter what it is. I bought a course during lockdown called Masterclass. I don't know if you've heard of it. It's
amazing.
App.
Yeah, all the different ones. Yeah.
Yeah, and it's brilliant. Like today, they've just introduced, some how you can look at all sorts of different things, but it's brilliant. So I thought, right, I need some time in my day uninterrupted where I can do that. I also have lots of wearables. So I've got like a thing there called the Apollo.
The Apollo. Tell me about the Apollo. What does the Apollo do?
Apollo is basically, it's a pulsating thing on nerves and wrists.
Right.
And you drive it from an app, and you can certain scientific studies, certain pulses at certain times, at certain frequencies, at certain levels of intensity give you different feelings. So in the morning when you wake up, you can put it on your wake up one, and only for 5 minutes, and it just gets your whole body focused. So I put that into my routine.
Right.
So I've got Apollo. It's an American company, but it's really, really, really good. So I put that down, as well as things like looking at my my resting heart rate, looking at my sleep patterns, all those sorts of things, which I get from another wearable, which is a ring. So a lot of people have watches, but then if they have different watches, they can't have the same thing.
Yeah.
And I found this ring, which is brilliant because it does everything. That's an Aura. O-U-R-A.
O-U-R-A. This is going to be an expensive video chat for me to do. I could tell.
It could be. It could be. But you wear that, and it's obviously you can wear it swimming or shower, whatever, and it constantly does. You know, you have to charge it once every 5 days, I think. But it constantly gives you signals, feedback, pulse rate, heart, all sorts of different things. And then your app every morning tells you how you got on. Wow. So I wanted to. There's no point having these, things around if you don't measure them. So I wanted to have time in my development where I looked at it and adjusted my results as well. So I do that, and then I had things like meditation, which is just sitting quietly and contemplating stuff. With my coach, I've just taken on a coach in California. Part of his engagement is you get some hypnosis, which I've never done before in my life.
How's that?
Oh my God. At first it was freaky because it's via Zoom, but then it became, actually, where's these ideas coming from when they ask questions? It's because your subconscious is then pushing stuff out there. And I've had 4 sessions now, about 40 minutes, and revealed stuff that was, it's a little bit, one of them was the day before I went in for my operation. And you're not meant to say, obviously, anything after, because the lady who does it, she's brilliant, Hayley. She basically then cuts off the Zoom and you just carry on your own. But as she did that, tears were just streaming down my face, which was just, I'm emotional, but not at that level.
Yeah.
All because of something which, obviously came out in the session, which was brilliant. So I do a little bit of self-hypnosis a day now. As well on that side of it, and then basically I've just got this board which I've got on my Trello board, if you've heard of Trello, and it just keeps me focused on other things that I want to do. So exercise, another part. I do TRX quite a lot. Yeah, well, I did until I had my operation on my tummy, so I need to get that back. But yeah, TRX in the evening, and then we've got a Peloton which I ride in the morning.
Nice.
So that just gets the cardio and the strength stuff working as well, which is really good. And then, of course, family time. So I've got 2 hours a day of family time. I've got 3 very important people in my family, my wife and my twins, Lily and James. And I want to spend quality time with them, not just snatches of time.
Yeah.
So I put 2 hours down for that. Some days it'll be a bit less because they're at school. But like this Friday, Lily's at a football training. So I'll be with her for an hour. James is training on the Thursday night football and I'm his coach. So I'll be there for, so sometimes a bit longer, but overall it works out about that side of it. And then me time, I've put my 2 hours in as well.
Nice.
And that'll be just whatever I feel like, if I'm meeting up with friends or just stuff that I want, read a book, anything that just takes me away from that. And what that leaves me with is 8 hours left. So I've got rid of all the things that keep me human. Yours is being human. Yeah. All the things that keep me human, that is to do with health, love, happiness, all those key things. And what I'm left with is what I call the wealth area. And the wealth area I split down into 2 sections: money now, money future.
Ooh, money now.
And money now is pretty much the business that I run, which is coaching family type businesses on how to set their business up so it runs whether they turn up or not, is what we do. And money now is about doing all that. And if there's a busy day where I've got lots of calls and stuff, that takes obviously precedent. But one thing I realized before lockdown is I was spending more time on the money now and not enough on the money future. I only use the word money because I'm trying to invest in the future in some ways. So I adjusted that and said, right, I need to spend at least 24 hours a week on money future. If I don't do that, then I won't be ahead of the game all the time. I won't be looking at new things that are happening. I won't be working on the things that help me and my family get to the level we want to get to. Enjoy the things we want to get to. So I'll just become a busy fool.
can you give me an example of money future? What would be a couple of topics that you would look at in money?
Yeah, so like our business model.
Mm-hmm.
Our business model pre-lockdown was one-to-one, face-to-face. And luckily, before that, about 18 months ago, we decided that wasn't the ideal way to go anyway. We could reach more people and still deliver the same product at one-to-many level. So we started redesigning the one-to-one into the one-to-many. And then Money Future is about how we did that. So over lockdown, we held various group sessions with people on one topic. Everyone got to share, got to engage with each other, got to challenge, went away, and then a week later came back with their results.
Yeah.
And like some hadn't done any and were held accountable. Some had done a lot and were sharing it. Other people were confused and able to clarify, but it just worked.
Yeah.
So that's one thing. Other things are just looking at things like marketing, how we market our business and what we need to do on that. A friend of mine, Nigel, he always says that business is about two things: getting and keeping customers. And that really is Money Future as well, is how do we keep our current customers engaged and focused and performing, and how do we get new ones as well? Mm-hmm. So those are the money. So I have a little going to very plain. I have a little sheet which I use every week. I fill in. So there's my last week's one. So even though I've got computers, I've got that, and I just write down the things I want to achieve this week, and then I just plan it out, and I just keep that next to me, so I know what my Money Future is.
Yeah.
And then the final bit is at the end of every day, I recap it. Just to make sure. So after I've done my exercise, I normally come back up to the office, because I've got office in the house, and then just like half an hour chill out, put my Apollo on to refresh and stuff like that, do a little bit of self-hypnosis, and then just have a reflection on the day, what worked well and even better if, are the two questions I ask.
Yeah.
And how I get back to my my routine.
So it's a consistency, isn't it? That is the discipline. A lot of people, when I talk to them, the business that I do is coaching, very similar to you in the sense of I found out what I geeked out on and I love doing. And I've got different ways of making life a lot easier. And I really jazzed it up. And I've, I looked at all the things that weren't working for me and got rid of them. And now I can tell the story and, and sell the story basically,
yes,
to help give people the other ideas. And, for me, I never thought I would be having fun and making discipline fun and colourful and bright and using Lego and enjoying it. But if you'd have said to me discipline back then, I'd have been like, no way. Like, my parents are military. My mum was in the army, my dad was in the Navy. So discipline for me was like, oh my God, I've done something wrong. What have I not rolled up? What have I not done? And it's
absolutely
panic. But now, people say to me, oh my God, you're so efficient or you're so disciplined. But I'm having so much fun. So I found a way to make it work for me, which I think is very similar to what you've done. You've obviously got your way with your watch and your ring and your little, your bit of paper next to you. I think a lot of people, and let me know if you think this as well, is when they think of the word discipline, it's overwhelming, but it seems so boring.
Yeah.
It seems fundamentally like, you don't want to do that because it's work related. But what you've done is you've made your discipline you related. It's all family first, you first, working out what you have first. And then on top of that is the work.
Yeah, I think it's where your mind starts from originally. So when I was an entrepreneur originally, before I sold my business twice and then went into the corporate world, the idea of having a routine, the idea of having to fill in things, the idea of having to have a structure, the idea of anything like that would just drive me insane. And I suppose in some ways, the book, I Don't Work Friday, we wrote, it's all about the fact that people think that routine is bad and entrepreneurs like to be chaotic. They like to wake up at 3 a.m. and do stuff, which is great when you're growing a business.
Yeah.
But when you want to sustain, towards the end of my corporate career, where there's like 650 people in our organization. Now, if I want to sustain and grow a business like that, I cannot be chaotic. I cannot be unstructured. I cannot be, let's go. All of you guys, we're now going down this route, because they're like, what? I can't do that. And the very thing that gets an entrepreneur to the level they get to is the very thing that stops them, and it's structure. It really is. We have I'll try and see if I can find it. We have a on the wall. You can see it behind me, just there. That's our maxims. And one of them says, if I can find it, experience freedom and flexibility in routine.
Mm-hmm.
Because what I found is, I know, like, date night with Jackie, I know if we have, like, whatever the frequency is, if obviously now it's a bit less because we're together all the time, we can't go out much, but if it, say it's once a week we had date night before the kids were around, and then we'll go, oh, that's very structured. It's not, because all I'm saying is it's important enough to put in the diary. Mm-hmm. What we do on date night can be anything. Yeah. So if we set date night from 3 o'clock in the afternoon, say, on every Wednesday, then we could decide whatever we want. We could be in Paris by 5 o'clock.
Exactly.
We could be anywhere. It's still exciting. But if we didn't set it, we get into that classic routine, is when you bump into someone, you go, must have lunch. Let's get together. I haven't seen each other for ages. And then the next time you see them, you go, must have lunch. Because it's not in your diary. It's not in your routine.
It's not that. And do you know, it's I don't know if my book is here. It's not there. I've got a book called The Values Factor. I don't know if you've seen it before. So it's Dr. John DeMartini. He's quite, he's quite good, and he's got The Values Factor, and he says, most people, when you say to someone, what do you value? And they're like, oh, honesty, integrity, respect. And he's like, no, they're your morals. They're not what you value. What you value is what you spend the most time on. Yeah. And if you can understand what it is, he's got like a set of questions in there, and what you spend the most time on, that is the most important thing to you. That's the stuff you can get up and do without even thinking twice. I
have to read this. It sounds good.
Yeah, no, it's really good. It's called The Values Factor.
So there's a place in here to put things I need to do. There you go. So
Values Factor, Dr. John DeMartini. I love his work. He's quite cool. And I remember saying to one of the guys I was working with, it was one of my first ever coaching clients, and I was still, working out how I was going to coach with people. I knew I could help them, and I'm more advice focused and kind of helping people rather than the therapy of sitting there and listening to them. I'm more of a driven person. You want help, I'll get you there. Yeah. So I said to him, let's do the questions. I said, what do you think you value? So he's like, oh, like love, respect. And I'm like, okay, cool. So now you understand what it is. And I explained to him what it was. I said, can you have a guess at what you value before we do the questions? He said, oh, yeah. I value my family, and I value my girlfriend. And I'm like, right, okay. So these were like his top two. And then I said, okay, any more? And he's like, I can't think of any more. I was like, okay. We did his questions, Martin, and those two things didn't come up in the answers of any of his questions whatsoever. What he valued was working on the jet ski, working on the car that he was rebuilding and redoing, because he redid cars. Then he was doing something else with his friends. And there was like 3 other things. So there's his top 5, and his family and his girlfriend were nowhere on the list. And I said to him, how does that make you feel? And he was like, terrible. And he said, but at the same time, that's just who I am. I said, do you think you're with the right partner? And he's like, I don't know. And I'm like, well, that's a fundamental question that you've got to ask yourself, because you now have been putting yourself first. Whereas before, he's just doing a few things and then putting her in wherever she fits. And she'd come around and wait for him to finish for the day and, sit there for him or whatever. And I was like, you're not going to give her the best of what she needs if you're not interested in it. And it was just a simple thing like that most people don't realize what is truly important. Obviously you have your story of why things are truly important to you, and you've had that hard life lesson, but some people don't. Some people have no idea.
No, and that's the thing. What happened? Obviously you know the story, and I won't go into too much detail, but 2010, when we were expecting our first child, she unfortunately died at birth. And what happened then is just everything gets put into perspective. That's the thing. Everything suddenly goes, what's the meaning of anything? when that bundle of joy you were looking forward to, those hopes and everything, is suddenly taken away from you. And the trouble is, the blessing in that is I then questioned everything afterwards. Why am I doing this? What's the point of doing this? I think I've said to you before, I had one really bad day about 2 months after. I just got really angry with the world, and so it's good. And when I say it's now a really sort of weird thing to say, but good job she died anyway, because I'd never have seen her, because I was working all the hours for a future that she didn't have. Yeah. And what a lot of my customers come to me is because they're always telling themselves, but I work 80 hours around the clock for my kid's future. Like, but what about their present?
Yeah.
That's the challenge.
That's a harsh question, but it's such a direct one.
No, but the reason is because I learned it a hard way, and I don't want them to do that. I don't want them at the age of when they turn around to their kids and want do something, and the kids just to shun them and say, look, you weren't there for me, because then they got to live the whole life in regret, and I didn't want that to happen. So it is so important to have this thing called the wheel of life, isn't it? And work out what's important to you, and then work out how much of time you're spending. The old adage of retirement and we work for X number of years and then we retire, then we die. Well, and so we're working for the retirement. Well, you could die straight after you've finished working. So what is the point? So I just written, funny enough, to a client of mine because he put in our Facebook group about his life balance, and I just said, absolutely, the destination is important, but as it takes like nearly 90% of your journey to get there, why not enjoy the journey as well?
Yeah, totally. And I think obviously with lockdown, I think a lot of people's priorities and understandings all went on their head and shifted. So we're at this prime time to create something new and to change our habits, because things have, been taken away from us in many ways. And I was really surprised. I keep saying this to a lot of people. I have some people in my network that I thought were going to fundamentally flop in life forever, because I just saw no movement. It was just like, there's nothing going on. As soon as lockdown hit, they had this, all of a sudden, it was like they're on furlough and they're like, actually, I don't want this job. And they went on and they're now becoming entrepreneurs or finding something else or doing something incredible that they love, that they're using some of their savings that they've been saving for a house forever. And they're like, actually, why not just spend it now and get to where I want to go in, not all of it, but still some of it. And they're making these incredible moves. And there's these other people that I saw were entrepreneurs out there doing their thing. And then as soon as COVID hit, it was just like, oh my God, they panicked, they dropped the ball, they went into anxiety, like everyone did, but in a major way. And that showed me that the one thing that I think the difference is between those two people is structure. Because people who had a job, who were working for other people, who weren't really, they had this steady structure that allowed them to kind of, even though it's scary to leave that structure, they had the discipline.
Yeah.
Whereas a lot of the entrepreneurs is, we do get so confused, and a lot of it now is like, I've read something, was it reading, or I think I watched something the other day, it was about it was on LinkedIn or something, and it said about where if you're just like a car salesman these days, the way our environment is, and you work for someone, right? The way our environment is now you have to become a celebrity car salesman. You have to become someone in order to be a car salesman. You can't just be a car salesman anymore. You have to have this personal brand and identity. Or if you're a hairdresser, you need to be the best hairdresser. And not everyone can be the best hairdresser. So that leaves a lot of people with places where, they can't really do much other than what they're doing with everyone else. And everyone's doing it all at the same time. So unless you're doing something game-changingly different, it's hard to stand out. And that applies a lot of pressure, because you start to think about your personal brand like you're not good enough, you're not enough. And you don't need to be a Kardashian to be a hairdresser. You don't need to have this social media following. What you need to have is something that's unique to you, which, Daniel Priestley does, which is about the personal story and so on. But it's not always about going to get this major audience. And I don't know if you've heard of 1,000 True Fans. Have you heard of that before?
No.
So there's a concept called 1,000 True Fans. If you have 1,000 true fans and people who follow you that will buy everything that you're into, you can sustain yourself very well. Yeah. And it's just that concept that you don't need everyone to love you. You don't need so many people to accept what it is you do. You just need to do it really well and be comfortable with growing at a good pace. And that's what I think structure gives people. And that's what some of the people that I know that have now jumped out of their full-time job and into a new kind of idea of going off and being an entrepreneur, they haven't got the biggest dreams on the planet. They've got dreams that they want to work for themselves, and they're happy to go and find a few good quality customers.
Yeah.
And there's no like, oh my God, I need to be famous with it. It's just, no, I need to have 6 clients and this is how I'm going to get it. And it's so achievable.
Yeah. And I think, like you said, everywhere around now, because of instant fame or instant thing, everybody, one thinks it's easy. Of course, it's not. And two thinks it's what they need to aspire to be. But the true thing is your own happiness, whatever it is, in some ways.
Yeah. And
people are so, I think, hell bent on trying to find something that they don't ever really look at what they've got in the first place. When lockdown happened, we obviously went over the top with our clients as far as, trying to help them, because a lot of them had earnings suddenly stop. This before the government weighed in and did anything, and suddenly it was all. But I had to write an article about the stages of lockdown, and I can't remember, but I put about down to 8 different stages. And the thing that amazed me is the stage where everybody in the UK, not just seemed to be together, pulling towards, clapping was the bit where we had zero choice. When it was, you stay in your house, you don't leave, you don't go to work, you go shopping only very rare. So we did, for a lot of people, they couldn't somehow dream about anything else, about that certainty of being locked down.
Yeah.
But I tell you what, for most people, that was their happy space.
I know.
It really, really was.
So
and then when it started to get a little bit more around, April the 17th, I think was the date, and it started to go this way, and opportunities were opening up again. People then went, and they went back into the race, back into the rat race.
Yeah.
And one of the best expressions I heard, and I think it was from Chris Evans' radio show, and I don't think it was him, I think it was in Vassos or something, said, "Isn't it time we stop being the human race and being the human side of it?" And the race is what kills everybody at some point. For what? For what? Yeah, that's the key thing. What are they racing towards?
It's interesting that you say that, because as soon as lockdown hit, I was actually on the phone to you about 2 weeks before lockdown hit. Can you remember when I said I had Boots Bank? I'd literally got all these clients that I was about to go and secure that were like, "Yeah, we love what you're doing. It'd be amazing."
I remember.
And I was so happy, and I was ringing you, being like, "Right, I'm gonna need to take you on as a mentor, because I've got this and I've got this, and I need to get some grounding, or what do I do?" And you gave me advice, and I said, right, and I went ahead, and then obviously COVID hit, and I was thinking, oh my God, like everything's just gone. I can't do anything right now. And I sat at home, and I remember ringing my parents, being like, "Can you come pick me up? I don't want to be on a lockdown in London. Just get me out of London." I was in a flat, and I was like, "Just get me out of London." And I came and sat here at home, and I ended up figuring out the radio station plan. But when I was just here, I was speaking to most of my friends, and some had gone home to their parents, some had moved in with their friends, some had moved in with, even ex-partners, just to kind of break it up and not be on their own. And everyone was like, "Oh, do you know what? We don't know what's going to happen." But it was more of a case of like, the pressure was off, even though it was heavily on in a global state. It was like, okay, now I've got some time to think, or if you've been furloughed, I've got time to work out, I've got time to read that book, I've got time. And it was such a really beautiful time to see so many people, come together, and we were all knowing our neighbors' names, and everyone was getting acquainted with people on their street. And the thing that really made it go nuts again, which for me really, disturbed it. And I think, and this is not because it's not an important subject, but when Black Lives Matter happened, everybody started to be kind of separated again, whether they believed in it or whether they didn't, or whether they'd had a racist problem or whatever. And it was like quite a dark shadow, unfortunately, over that time. And I was checking myself and thinking about racism, and I realized that most of my friends are from some other ethnicity, which had never occurred to me before, because I'd never asked myself, because I just was friends with them. And so I was really thinking about life questions. And I think we had that important time to really think about what truly mattered. So I think that's why Black Lives Matter did actually matter to people, because they thought, actually, hold on a minute, I've been working all the time. I didn't notice this was this much of a problem. And I want to get behind this and support it, because it does matter. Black lives do matter. And it was that integrity of everyone and that community that kind of came through it. It was just the media twisted all of the stories, which made it into something else.
Yeah,
and
absolutely.
That was the disappointing time. But I totally agree with you on the fact that it was most people's happiest time is when they had no other choice.
But there was, in the darkest times when potentially money wasn't coming in, they might not have a job, people around them could be dying, all these things. The one thing everybody had was certainty. The certainty was we couldn't go out. The certainty we could only go out for an hour and exercise.
Yeah.
So
which everyone needs.
Yeah, but which is amazing, because we every day for, I don't know, however long, we went out, we had our lunch, we did some, because the kids are obviously up to school, so we did schoolwork. My work went through the roof, because I had a lot of clients that just needed support and just a shoulder to cry on or something. Yeah. And we just went out at like, I think it's about 4 o'clock most days, something like that. We just went for a cycle ride, like 2-3 miles around the road.
Yeah.
But as we passed people, they would wave. Because remember, the weather was incredible as well.
Yes, it was great.
And as we got to some roads, there was one road in particular. We went up a little hill, turned round. There's a right bit there, and there were like people sat out in their driveways, opposite each other, talking, chatting every day. And it's because they had certainty that they didn't have to. All they had to work out is where they got their food from.
Mm-hmm.
That was it.
Yeah,
that was it.
At what time they went for it, because otherwise there's going to be a longer queue than they wanted to have.
Yeah, and because people couldn't go out and pretend to be at a club enjoying themselves, or because people couldn't fake do something, everyone became human again. And it was just, and those Thursdays, we went to our bedroom and hung out the top of our, clapping the NHS at 8 o'clock every Thursday. And it was a wonderful time to be alive. It really was. And that's a little bit where my structure came from, because I said to a lot of people, I don't want to let all the good things that are happening out of this bad virus go to waste now.
Mm-hmm.
And that's where a lot of it came from. And then when the uncertainty came in, which it is now, it's worse than ever.
Yeah.
Yeah, everyone, Boris at one stage was a hero, pretty much by everyone. And when he was in hospital, everyone was really fearful.
Yeah.
And now suddenly he made a few mistakes, like everyone does, but he's now, vilified. And that's because of the uncertainty.
Yeah,
that's true. All it is.
I feel like this, I've been, we'll actually talk to you about it probably off air afterwards, but I've got a little idea about in terms of like building the community and how we do that again, because I came up with an idea 2018, and it was basically about producing a game where we all could play the same game every week, but it would be certain personal development challenges that would get us to grow together as a community.
Okay, yeah.
And it's really quite a fun game, and I've been thinking about it. And it was something I did 2 years ago. Then I wrote a blog about it in 2019 in March. And I was like, oh, this would be great for 2020 to get everyone together. But the climate wasn't right for it, and it didn't end up working out. And now I'm sat here thinking, this is the right time. Like, this is the time to do it, because I've seen actually the effect of it working in a mini March, April time, when everybody was like, what are we doing? And we're coming into that again now with whatever's going on. But I feel like in January and February, we're going to hit some tough walls, because obviously financially for Christmas is a if you haven't set any structure around your finances between now and before, the chances of you making enough money to have the Christmas you want to have usually is going to be very limited. So that's
very much.
A lot of uncertainty, but also it's the expectations of Christmas as well, I think, is what everybody expects. Loads of presents and loads of things. I think it's going to be humbling in a sense that we might be making our Christmas presents, which is a great thing to do with the family.
Yeah. Oh, there's lots of things. I had every Sunday, Lily and I would make dessert, and so we would just get up in the morning, have our breakfast. Jackie and James would go off and do something, and we would make dessert for the day. And we try and do it. We always had things that we did that could just occupy us. Like Lily and I learnt Spanish on my. I'll tell you what it is, because I'm very proud of this at the moment.
Is it Duolingo you use?
It is Duolingo, exactly that. I did a lot of research, but it's Duolingo, and I think it's a 186 days streak on them.
Wow.
So it tells you how long you've been going for. 180 days streak. So 186 days of constant. Just one lesson every day. But again, these sorts of things are just important, because it gets you into a habit. When I was in hospital, I was even sat in my hospital bed before the op, making sure I did my Duolingo. Otherwise, I'd lost my streak. How powerful is that?
I'm like that. I've got an Insight Timer. I'm also a teacher on there for Insight Timer for meditations. But when you basically go on there, and my highest streak is, I think it's 151 days in total of going on every single day and meditating for like 10, 20 minutes. But tracking it, I geek out on that, and I'm like, oh my god, I don't want to miss a day. So I sit down and I make sure I do it. But I don't know if everyone's like that. I think some people don't really care, but I know that when you can see your own progress, you start to realize that you're actually capable of things, and that's where the magic is, where you start to believe in yourself.
Well, that's why if people say, oh, I need to lose weight, and of course they do and they don't, and whatever that routine is. But if every week you just measured what went in and what you weighed, and then you see a car, this week there's a guy called James Smith. I don't know if you've read his books. he's brilliant because he just he debunks every single myth out there to do with weight gain and weight loss, and he just calls it CFD. I won't tell you what the F stands for, but it's calorie something deficit.
Okay.
And he just talks, his whole book is about this. And he says, look, all you got to do on a weekly basis is just work out roughly what you're at, and then what weight you started off with, and then what weight you ended up at. And guess what? Within a week or two, you'll see a correlation.
Yeah.
You'll see a correlation between the more. Now, obviously, there's medical grounds where some people that doesn't work, but 95% of the human race, the more they eat, the more they put on weight. The less they eat, the less weight they put on. Yeah. Whereas most people are unhappy because of their weight, but it's actually so controllable.
Yeah.
And it's controllable because you measure it. So if you measure yourself every week and then on the scales, and then measure yourself every week on how much you eat, then you'll see the correlation. And that's what I think we're trying to say, is it's not being obsessive to a level. It's sort of like gamification, isn't it?
Yeah, the gamification. Yeah. That's literally the game was what I was thinking about for the new year, the gamification of it all. Because there's one other thing as well. So I lived out the country for some time, obviously, as you know. I lived in Ibiza, and I was never really good with my finances and stuff. So since I got back, since when I broke my back, it was like 2 years ago, and I thought, you know what, it's about time. You know, that time I was 34. I like to say I'm 26 for life, and that's when I'm doing the maths. And I thought, you know what, I really need to sort my credit rating out. And I joined up with the credit score thing, and knowing that I'm going to have a credit rating get delivered to me on a certain day of every month to let me know if I've gone up or not, makes me make sure that my payments are done. That my stuff, I'm like, oh, no, it's that date, and I've got it all in the diary, and I'm like, right, I need to. And it is like a game. It's like I need to win and make sure on that day I make sure there's a payment gone in, because otherwise my rating's going to go down, and I don't want to go on there and see it go because I'm just like, oh. Damn. So it's like a game that I'm playing with my own credit score, which I had no interest in my credit score whatsoever for the majority of my life. And now I'm a keen bean when it comes to the credit score.
But it is, I did when I used to play Donkey Kong Jr. when I was first at school on the Atari or whatever. And the whole of my year, I went to a boys' grammar school. The whole of my year, we were talking about it like daily. So you go home and you would look at your score, and you go back and you say what your score was. Now, obviously, we didn't have phones to take pictures. We had to just believe each other. But it was just all about wanting to improve. And one of the big things I do with our clients is I get them to understand is if they want a certain success in life, there are certain consequences that have to happen. And all they've got to do is turn around and say, are they prepared for those or not? Now, no one's judging them if they are or not. I think one of the biggest failings and why there's so many troubled people out there is expectations and delivery.
Yeah.
And I don't think it's their expectations either. It's others on them.
Yeah.
I think that, I should be earning all this money. I should be, my neighbour's got the new car. I should go and get a new car. Really? Yeah. Who tells you that?
It's the word should, isn't it? They say should means it's somebody else's expectation upon. And it's got nothing to do with what you really want. It's just
absolutely
like, should do this and should do that. So in terms of like the simplest thing that somebody could do, what would be the top 3 things that someone could actually go, right, okay, I've listened to this podcast, I've listened to this show. I want 3 things to take away that I need to now do to apply to my week that's going to help me get some balance.
Yeah. So the first thing is awareness, I think. Because a lot of people just aren't aware of what really is going on. Yeah, they say people that are poor have no idea what they spend their money on, and I think people that are time poor, as in they don't know what they spend their time on. So for me, I would always say to someone, just keep a rough. Don't have to be completely anal about it, but just have a rough idea of what you did with your time today, because it's 1,440 minutes. And when you start adding all those things up and then you go, oh, what did you do? You realize they lost like 700 minutes. Oh, I don't know what I did. What, 700 minutes? That's half your life. So for me, the first thing is think of those 1,440 minutes like money, and you're spending it because you think it's coming back tomorrow. And that's why we all waste time, because we think it's coming back tomorrow. So don't think it's coming back tomorrow. I think that I need to justify what I'm doing. So all you got to do is just be aware of what you've got. Yeah. At the end of the day, you can break it down into little groups if you want. You can break it down into physical stuff. You can break it down to emotional relationships, work, all those different areas that you do. and then just write down underneath what those total times were, and do what you did with your client, and just turn around and say, so what's most important for you, on a separate sheet of paper. And if they say, I'm spending time with my kids, well, how did that work out? Didn't spend any time with them. Okay. One of the we write a blog. Write a blog every week, which we send to people. So we've got like 5 years of them, and one of them I rerun twice a year maybe, and it's called "Daddy, Can I Borrow £50?" I don't know if you've ever seen that one.
No, I've not seen that one.
Oh, I can't even. I don't. Half the time I can't even say it. I need to sort of read it out, but I won't. I'll try and remember it. But it's along the lines of, Dad works 24/7. You know, lots of people do. Mum works 24/7, but this one's a dad, and he comes home, and basically the son is like, Dad, can I have a chat? And he's like, well, what do you want? I'm busy, even though he's at home. He's like, I just want. Okay, what do you want? He said, I just want to know, sort of, how much you earn. He's like, oh, for God's sake. Yeah, why do you want to know how much I earn? What do you want? Another new toy? And he goes mad at the son. So anyway, his son runs off, upstairs, goes to bed, and Dad thinks, well, probably a bit harsh on him. Yeah, okay. So he goes upstairs, and his son's got all this money out, and he's counting it. And Dad gets even more angry now. Go, oh, so you're counting your money, and you want me to know how much I earn so I can give you some more, and walks out again. Anyway, he goes downstairs, thinks, oh, that was really wrong of me. I should go upstairs. So he goes up and he says to his son, I don't know why you want to know. I just want I'll tell you how much I earn. And his son does a quick math. He says, so Dad, you earn about 50 quid an hour, don't you? Which is about 100 grand a year. He goes, yeah, why? He said, Dad, here's 50 quid. Can I buy an hour of your time?
Oh my God.
Yeah. Now I send that, it's awful, isn't it? I send that out twice a year, and I always get more engagement on that one blog than I do anything else.
Yeah, that's got me little tears in my eyes.
Oh, it's awful. It's really awful, because it's what we're doing. And so writing out what we do with our time, and then writing out what we want to do with our time, not what we should.
Yeah.
I remember talking to a client once about, so you can do all this and spend more time with your family and more time. And I could see his eyes looking at me. I went, or not, you could spend more time on the golf course. He went, brilliant. Because he didn't want to spend time with his family. That's his choice.
Yeah.
I'm not going to judge what he wants to do. Yeah. I just want him to live the life that he wants to live.
Yeah, that's it. You have to just focus on the client, not on what you think the client should.
It might not be my morals. It might not be my, but as long as what he wants to do is what he wants to do, and it's ethical, moral, legal, I'm cool.
Yeah.
That's fine. So measure what you do, understand what you really, really want to do. And I always have 3 questions about that. What do I want to have?
Yeah.
What do I want to be? And what do I want to do? Because I think those 3 put everything in perspective. Have maybe material, but it might be other things. Mm-hmm. I want to be someone is about, I want to be this person, I want to be that person, and I want to do certain things. I want to go to this place. But those things capture everything. Mm. And then the third option is measure the gap. Always about a gap.
Yeah.
And then just look at it and say, look, I want to spend more time with my family, but I'm not. So what do I need to change?
Yeah.
And then you can't change it all. Just change one thing and see what happens. Mm. For some people, you might have to get up a bit earlier. For some people, you might just come home an hour earlier. Some people, like for me, the whole idea of the book, I Don't Work Fridays, is giving the chance for people to choose what they do.
Yeah.
And that was it. So those are the 3 things I would say. And routine gives you a lot better way of measuring it, because you get into a routine and you get into a habit, and then everything gets incorporated.
Yeah, that's true. I know that you're saying about what people want to do and be and have. I didn't know that I wanted to spend more time with my parents, because I've spent loads of time. Well, so I thought I spent loads of time with my parents. But since being here on lockdown, we have like a little routine where we have our organic eggs every morning, usually between like 7:30 or 8 o'clock, and we have soldiers and we have tea and we just talk. It's a nice routine. And when I went to Ibiza, which I've just got back from, I went to Ibiza, and I was over there, and there was this beautiful guy there, and I was thinking, oh God, you're so hot. And everyone's like, why don't you stay for a bit longer? And he's like, yeah, why are you not staying? And I'm like, I was like, I've left my laptop at home for the simple reason I know I won't go back if I have my laptop with me. So I left it at home. But there was a really big part of me which should never have happened before. I'm like, I miss my mum and dad.
Yeah.
I want to go home and have my eggs and soldiers with my parents.
Yeah.
And no matter how beautiful you are, no matter what you look like, I'm going to go home for those and soldiers. And I really missed them. And I came home and I said to them both, I've had a strained relationship with my mum throughout the years. We're very similar, but like it's been very difficult. And we get on so well now. It's so beautiful. And that's the best thing that's come out of this lockdown period for me is forget the business, forget the radio station, forget everything else I'm doing, is that I've got a better relationship with my mum and dad. And the other thing that really game changed it for me is when I was in Ibiza, because I haven't had social media since probably February 2019, maybe just before. I have not seen anyone unless I've actually seen you personally or called you or whatever. So if I don't see you and I'm not scrolling past you and you're not scrolling past me, I know nothing. When I went to Ibiza, because I'd not been properly, I saw so many people that I hadn't seen for that long. And the connection, the level of human connection that I felt by just going, I was giving people hugs that I hardly even spoke to before. And I was just like, oh my God, I know we shouldn't give people hugs, but I thought, oh, well. And I'm just like, oh my God, I've missed you. How are you? And the connection of not seeing people and genuinely reconnecting with them made me well up. My eyes were like, I was like behind my glasses, just being like, this is so beautiful to actually, because this is what social media does. It takes away that human connection. Although you see people all the time, it takes away the specialness of someone and their personality and their vibe and their essence. Because if you're seeing them all the time, you just, oh, she's all right, she's alive, she's scrolled, I've scrolled past him, he's okay, these people aren't okay.
No,
behind their screens they are fundamentally not okay. They've got great filters, but they're not okay. And I felt that in Ibiza, and it was such a magical time. Do you feel like social media for you, because I know you've got a bit of it with your business, but do you feel like you could ever walk away from that if you found an alternative?
Yeah, I definitely. So I've cut down a lot of social. One of the things I've been listening to is that noise that it creates constantly, and I've cut. I actually was going to. I use it for business, which is really difficult. So I was going to cut out pretty much things like Instagram, Facebook, Twitter. LinkedIn slightly different because I don't call that social media. That's more of a tool. But the other challenge is there are times that I'm not thinking about someone, but something crops up in their life that really brings me back. And you're right, having a lot of I can count my close friends on one hand, and I'm happy with that. I know, I've got 20,000 friends. Yeah, really? I have 3 or 4, friends that I've known since I was 15, 16. And been to funerals, weddings, all sorts of things with them. And part of my routine is the first Wednesday of every month I meet up with my best mate, and we have a burger and a Guinness. As we get older, it's become steak and wine, but it's still it's more refined now. But we've done that for years and years and years. No matter where we are, we always try and make that same thing, because then we don't have to talk to each other for the rest of the time. We just have a real connection there and then.
Yeah.
And so for me, social media is something I do want to cut away from, but also I'm aware with some people I can still understand what's going on without having to constantly talk to them. So I do think it brings that element to it. But if they were that important to me, I would probably just talk to them. So I think it clouds everything in some ways.
It does.
It's nice to see that an ex-girlfriend or a friend I've known for years is doing well for themselves. But if I didn't know, would I be that bothered? Probably not.
No.
So it gives you that voyeurism, doesn't it, of what's going on in other people's lives. One of the things I recognised during this lockdown, Maslow has it with his hierarchy of needs. Tony Robbins has it with his 6 human needs. Is that level of where you are in your own development. And obviously, Maslow first won the basic, the lowest level. For a lot of people, they could have had millions in their bank, had a very glorious life, but if they couldn't breathe, everything was gone.
Yeah.
And actually, understanding what drives your human needs is I think, really important for people. And of course, Robin's human needs, his first one was certainty. And again, that's what the government, everybody in the world felt as though we're all in the same Everyone says the same boat. I think it's in the same river, but in different boats.
Oh, very well put. Same river, different boat.
Yeah, I think we're all in the same river. We're all slightly different boats, but we're all looking at each other going, we're suffering the same. And that brought a connection, which is, one of the biggest human needs as well. That connection, that brought a connection, which I think is Robbins' fourth level of human needs. That brought a connection like nothing else brought. Everyone, I say again, clapping for the NHS. All those things were all about connection and stuff like that. And then we got back to this thing about vying for celebrity and everything else again, and the TikTok era and all that stuff. And it's just gone the opposite way again.
Yeah.
I think unfortunately.
I mean, I've made it a pact with myself that I'm going to exist with this radio station and with my coaching entirely off of social media. I have LinkedIn, but I use it a bit like a
address book.
Literally like a phone book type thing, or like a CV. But other than that, I've found other ways to connect. And just for an example, I went to Ibiza and I was thinking, right, and I was saying to myself, right, don't want to do any work while I'm out here. I've got zero interest in doing any work. I need to switch off. I've not bought my laptop. I'm just going to go under. It's not like I'm a multimillionaire and I can afford to do it, but I need a break. So I went over there, completely switched off and relaxed. The first night I got there, I started chatting to a girl and she said, "Oh, what do you do?" And I said, "Oh, personal responsibility coach." And she said, "Oh, never heard of that before." I said, "No, I made it up because I'm not a life coach. I'm a personal responsibility coach. And I'll help you take personal responsibility. And the rest is down to you. I can't coach you forever. Nobody can. You've got to grow up at some point in the nicest way possible."
Yeah.
Oh, I love that. So I got a client, which I didn't know she was a client at the time. She's talking and asking me about it. And then afterwards, I got this lovely message when I got back. And it was like, "Hey, Nat, would love to work with you. I've been thinking about it. I was looking at it in your site. I really like the idea of it. It's so different. I'd love to." And I'm thinking, I wasn't even trying. I spend so many hours of my day trying sometimes to get clients. And then I'm like, well, I go on holiday. I'm sat down, I don't drink, but having a little fizzy drink. And I'm just chatting away and I get a client. And I really do feel like there's so much more of that can be done. It's the less I do physically, the less stress I'm in, because the less resistance, the more does come to me. But it's very hard to stay out of the resistance when you're in a global pandemic and your friends are calling and they're really upset, and then you're trying to think of what you're going to do. And I think that's that time where we had, like you just mentioned at the very beginning, we had no resistance to that position in March and April because we were in it. It's like, what can we do? We can't do anything else. We're just in it. And that's where I think also the magic comes from, because you let go. There's an acceptance.
Yeah. But you're certain you can't do anything. So you just go, okay, fine. I've been told that I need to stay in my house and just enjoy. So you start finding things in your own life that you can enjoy.
Yeah.
That's why things like, hot tubs and gym equipment and everything just sold out. Because people went, I just need to focus on me and do stuff.
Yeah. Who'd have thought that these saunas and gym equipment would sell?
I know, it's incredible. Everything. I've got clients that their business went, I've got two types of clients. One where their business absolutely boomed and they earned lots of money but had no time. Yeah. And ones where their business tanked. They had lots of time but no money.
Yeah.
And I said to both of them, you're just as lucky as each other as long as you focused on the asset you've just been given.
Yeah.
One was the money, what you're going to do with it, or two is the time, what you're going to be doing with it.
Yeah,
whereas if you're now moaning you've got no time but lots of money, shame on you. Or if you're now moaning you've got no money but lots of time, shame on you. Obviously, money's slightly more because we can't. But nobody. I think a lot of people have come out of this better. I know a lot of businesses that have got like 50 grand sat in their bank account from the bounce back loans that they've never ever had before.
That's just a comfortable cushion.
Absolutely. And now's the time in some ways to go, what if I always wanted to do? What if I always needed to do? This gives me the opportunity to do that. Well, let's get on and do it then.
Yeah, totally. Well, I'm very happy that you've come on today and we've had this conversation.
That's been cool.
Yeah, people do need to hear these, positive things, and structure can be fun. It can.
Massively.
Life, but it's very, I make mine. You can't really see it because of the. I've got a green screen thing going on, which is not. I don't know why they've got a green screen, because they've actually got a wall behind me, so I'm not sure.
I was going to say, yeah.
But you can't really.
That's your timetable.
Yeah, it's a timetable. I remembered I found my old planner from when I was a kid, when I was at school, and it was all color coded, and I used to highlight it and stuff. And I thought, I'm going to make myself a timetable. And very first thing I do in the daytime is fitness, meditation, chill out, and breakfast.
Yeah.
first thing of every day. And then once I've done that, I can crack on with everything else. But it can be that simple, but making it like small like this, like I do with my clients, and colorful, it just, you've got to make it work for you. Discipline does not have to be bad, but you do need to step up because life's not waiting for you anymore. Not that
and as we said, going back to it, there is freedom, experience freedom and flexibility in routine.
Yeah, totally.
Because, that's absolutely right.
So thank you so much for joining me.
You're more than welcome.
I really appreciate it. I'll talk to you very quickly afterwards. But if you want to find out anything more about Martin, you can do so underneath here. There's actually a link to his website, and you can also go and get his book from Amazon, which I highly recommend. You had another book out, right? Have I?
No, not quite yet. We were going to put it out just before lockdown,
right?
But we thought actually at the time we'll probably wait. So it's basically called. So the first book's I Don't Work Fridays, and the second book is I Don't Work.
Right.
But it's not about not working at all. It's about understanding that your business has all the answers if you just ask it the right questions.
Yes.
Which means you don't have to work on a hamster wheel. You can turn a hamster wheel into a flywheel.
Yeah.
And the business then runs itself in some ways.
I love how clever you are. It's all these like different ways of thinking and things. And it just,
it all comes from feedback.
You what, sorry?
It all comes from feedback from other people. I think one of the things I said earlier, I'm just attuned to listening to what's going on. So understanding what my time's doing, understanding where my money's going, understanding the feedback I'm getting from other people. Mm-hmm. That the L in scale from our scale model is lessons learned. And it's looking at everything and saying, okay, I didn't like what happened then, but what can I learn from it? So we call it, we either learn or we earn. So if we do something and we don't earn,
learn or earn.
So like we just spent quite a bit on advertising. And people are going, cool, you're spending quite a bit there. I'm saying, but I'm earning from it because I'm selling books or whatever, or I'm learning from it to improve it. Either way, it's good.
No, for sure. Learning or earning. I love that. Well, I can remember the first time I saw you. I was at I saw you. You did a talk. I think you posted it on LinkedIn the other day. You did the talk at the Dent Day.
Oh, Dan Priestley's event.
Dan Priestley's event. And that's when I first saw you. And then I went and bought the book. I literally, as you were talking, I was like, oh my God, I need this book. And I got the book straight away. And I've been following, I think it's been that long, 4 years. God, I can't believe it.
2016 it was, Yeah,
I've been stalking you for that long. You know that. But it just, I just found it fascinating. And I love all the work that Dan does as well with Dent. And, it's such practical. There's so many people who've buggered it up out there that are telling you now how to not bugger it up. If you're getting it wrong now, it's like because you're not listening. That's the main problem, because there's so many things out there that can tell you and put you on the right path, and your book is one of them. So
thank you. I think one of the challenges people like Dan, we do have good hearts, without doubt, and we do have a lot of success as well, but trying to get through the noise of the internet, of all those snake oil salesmen out there that are just selling something because they and it really is quite disheartening. So I'd much rather, like you say, have a fan base of a few hundred that absolutely get it, do it, and have a great life, rather than 20,000 that earn me a good money but don't do anything with it.
Yeah, no, totally. And they're the ones that will talk about you, love you, and recommend you as well. So they're doing the business for you.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. And we're going to have you at some point, hopefully can get you and Dan on, and somebody else that I know that I think that
you said,
would be so good if I could get all three of you on and talk about it from a man's perspective. We're going to be having conversations. There's a lot coming up just after Christmas, which I will share with you later. But we're going to have Martin back on, hopefully with Dan and another guest of mine. I think would be really good to talk about it from a man's perspective, the male drive, the kind of ego involved, and the comparisons, and how men do cope on this journey. Because I think it's quite an important thing to share, because we do have a huge suicide rate for young men these days, and they are trying, and it's a very noisy world out there. So if they can get advice from you guys of how to carve out themselves despite the noise, that would be quite useful.
That'd be very useful. Yeah.
Perfect. Okay. Well, thank you very much for everyone that's watched this or that you're watching it in the future, because I'm going to start promoting it more. We're live at the moment, but if you want to know any more details from Martin, you can go down to his website, and you can also check out more from me at where'snatat.com, and I'll be doing more videos on structure and how to simplify your life and make it fun at the same time. And if anybody's got any messages or anything, please do leave them in the comments below, and we'll get back to you as soon as we can. Bye for now.
Bye.